Every single day, without even realizing it, you are creating a digital trail. Every like, every purchase, every location you visit, every health question you type into a search bar, all of it gets quietly stitched together into a profile of who you are. And here is the part that should really catch your attention. That profile is not sitting safely in some locked vault. It is being bought and sold over and over again by companies you have probably never even heard of. Welcome to the hidden world of data brokers, a $200 billion industry built entirely on collecting, packaging, and selling your personal information, often without you ever knowing it happened. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on exactly how this industry works, from top to bottom. Before we dive in, quick two-line intro if you're new here. This channel is all about long-term wealth creation, and we truly believe that health is the very first form of wealth. So alongside the money talk, you will also find us covering how to build a stronger, healthier lifestyle. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this one. And if you find real value in it, feel free to subscribe, but only if you actually get something out of what we cover here. No pressure at all. All right, let's dig into this one. The little bits of information that make you, you. Think about how much of your life is already lived online in some form. You check your credit score through an app, you shop for clothes online, you track your calories with a fitness app, you Google your health symptoms when something feels off, and you carry your phone with you basically everywhere you go. Every single one of those actions creates what is called a data point, a tiny little piece of information about you. Your name, your age, your height, your weight, where you live, where you work, your family, your friends, your likes, your dislikes, your phone number, your email, your health conditions, your buying habits, your credit score, your political beliefs, your religious beliefs, even who you text most often. Every one of these is considered a data point. Individually, each one might seem harmless, almost meaningless. But when you start collecting thousands of these little data points about a single person, something much more powerful starts to take shape. Welcome to the world of data brokers. So who exactly wants all of these tiny data points, and why? Advertisers are an obvious answer, since a company with enough data about you can figure out exactly who to target and exactly how to convince you to buy something. Now you might be thinking, well, at least the big tech giants don't sell my data directly to random third parties. And as far as we know, that is actually true for a lot of the household name platforms. But this entire industry we are talking about today involves a completely different group of players, more than 4,000 companies operating in the United States alone, most of which you have probably never heard of. These are faceless companies operating largely in the shadows, with very few rules governing what they can and cannot do, quietly gathering personal information about your health, your buying habits, the restaurants you visit, and the stores you shop at, then turning around and selling that information to other companies for a serious profit, all without you ever being directly involved in the transaction. Collecting data from public information. So how does this entire process actually begin? It starts with public information, things that are already sitting out in the open on someone's social media pages. There is no hacking involved here at all. People are willingly posting their own pictures, sharing their own information, liking pages, checking into locations, updating their relationship status, and publicly listing their friends and hobbies. On top of that, there is a huge amount of information sitting in public records: property records, land registry filings, court records, birth certificates, voter registration details, and even bankruptcy filings. All of this is technically public and legally accessible to anyone who knows where to look. Buying data directly from companies. Public information alone is not nearly enough to build a truly detailed profile, though. So the next step involves purchasing data directly from companies who are willing to sell it. Think about your favorite retail store and that loyalty card you signed up for. That store now has a detailed record of exactly what you have purchased, when you purchased it, and how often you come back to buy more. And all of that purchase history is available for sale. Plenty of retailers have realized that the data they collect about their own customers can actually be just as valuable, sometimes even more valuable, than the actual products or services they are selling in the first place. Buying data from vehicle licensing agencies. Beyond retail stores, data brokers also purchase information directly from vehicle licensing agencies, the very same agencies that hold your name, your address, and other personal details tied to your driver's license or vehicle registration. In many cases, this kind of driver information is entirely legal to sell, and it becomes yet another valuable stream of personal data flowing into the broader data broker ecosystem. Fake apps, hidden trackers, and cookies. Here's where things get a little more deceptive. Some companies deliberately create free apps, websites, and other seemingly ordinary services, when in reality, the entire underlying business model is built around quietly collecting and reselling user information. These platforms often embed hidden trackers that can access things like your exact location and your contact list. And then there are cookies, those small pieces of tracking code sitting quietly on nearly every website you visit, usually given a friendly, forgettable name that most people never think twice about. Behind that friendly name, a lot of these cookies are actively tracking your browsing behavior, the websites you visit, the news articles you read, and the online purchases you make, often building an entire list of outside vendors that a website is willing to share your information with. Is any of this actually legal? At this point, you are probably wondering, how is any of this even legal? Technically speaking, it almost always is, because somewhere along the way, you agreed to it. Every time you clicked accept on a website's terms and conditions pop up, every time you left your social media profile public, every time you liked a page or posted about your personal interests, you were technically providing consent for your information to be collected and used. Most people honestly do not realize what they are actually signing up for when they click that accept button, but legally speaking, that digital signature still counts, turning raw data into a sellable profile. Once enough raw data points have been collected, the next step is aggregation, sorting through everything and building out full profiles for each individual. At this stage, nobody particularly cares whether you personally prefer one brand over another or baseball over basketball. What data brokers are really searching for is patterns. By looking at just a handful of your social media likes, it becomes possible to predict your political leanings with a surprising level of accuracy. By analyzing your purchase history, it becomes possible to estimate your age, whether you are trying to lose weight, or even whether you are a parent. By tracking your most frequent locations, it becomes possible to determine where you live, where you work, which restaurants you visit most often, and even whose homes you regularly spend time at. By examining your credit score, it becomes possible to estimate your income level and how much debt you are currently carrying. By looking at your contact list, it becomes possible to identify your closest friends, how often you actually speak with them, and even whether a friendship has recently cooled off, simply based on how often those calls happen. And by analyzing your internet browsing history, it becomes possible to identify potential health concerns, religious affiliations, personal interests, upcoming travel plans, and even products you are actively considering purchasing. All of these individual predictions eventually get bundled together into one detailed profile, essentially a well-packaged summary of exactly who you are, how you think, and how you are likely to behave. Selling your profile to marketing companies. Once these detailed profiles exist, it is time to actually sell them, and the most obvious first customer is the marketing industry. Let us say a data broker builds a list of people who appear to be particularly health conscious, based on their recent buying habits. Suddenly, gyms, personal trainers, health-focused restaurants, meal subscription services, and online fitness programs all become extremely interested buyers, since a more precisely targeted advertising campaign delivers a much stronger return on their advertising spend. Selling your profile to insurance companies. Marketing companies are really just the beginning, though. These same behavioral profiles can also reveal how risky your overall lifestyle appears to be, which happens to be exactly the kind of information insurance companies are eager to get their hands on. Something as simple as recently purchasing a motorcycle could end up flagged by a health insurance provider, potentially leading to noticeably higher premiums down the line. Selling your profile to banks. Banks are interested buyers too. By reviewing your search history and purchase patterns, a bank can get a sense of whether you frequently buy luxury items on credit or carry a history of high spending, and use that information to help determine whether you should receive a higher or lower interest rate on a future loan. Selling your profile to people search websites. There is also an entire category of websites dedicated specifically to storing personal information about individuals: name, address, family members, and more. All made available to anyone willing to pay a small fee to access it. Selling your profile to governments and other data brokers. Governments represent another interested buyer, particularly when it comes to tracking the exact location of a specific individual of interest. And perhaps most interestingly of all, data brokers frequently sell information to other data brokers. This entire industry functions as a sprawling web. Data brokers selling to other data brokers, who then sell to companies, who then sell to even more data brokers. with prices marked up at every single stage based on how valuable that particular piece of information happens to be. Just how valuable is your data? So what is all of this actually worth in real dollar terms? The average email address alone has been estimated to be worth around $89 to a brand over time. And when you start factoring in more sensitive categories of information, things like political affiliations, buying habits, or health conditions, the value climbs even higher, though it becomes truly difficult to pin down one single exact price. Since so much of this industry operates through private, word-of-mouth deals happening in marketplaces most of us will never see. The nothing to hide argument. At this point, there's probably one big question sitting in the back of your mind. Does any of this actually matter to you personally? If you grew up surrounded by smartphones, social media, and constant internet connectivity, hearing about how your data gets passed around might not bother you nearly as much as it probably should, and you are honestly far from alone in that reaction. There is a very common mindset out there, often summed up as, I have nothing to hide, so I have nothing to fear. If you are not doing anything wrong, why would any of this data collection actually affect you? The case for data collection. To be fair, there is a legitimate argument to be made here, since this same kind of data can actually be used for a lot of good. It can help law enforcement identify crime patterns and risk factors in specific areas. It can help researchers predict and respond to disease outbreaks and improve medical treatments. It can help everyday businesses improve the quality of the products and services they offer you. Used responsibly, this technology truly does have the potential to make plenty of systems around us work a little better. The case against, when data falls into the wrong hands. But here's the uncomfortable flip side of that same coin. What happens if this data ends up in the wrong hands entirely? What if a data broker unknowingly sold your information to someone with harmful intentions? What if an authoritarian government obtained detailed data profiles and used them specifically to target and monitor citizens who openly oppose them? Would any of this suddenly start to matter a whole lot more to you in that kind of scenario, or would it already be too late to do anything about it by that point? Right now, less than half of all data broker companies operating in the United States even allow individuals to see what information has been collected about them. And some of the very few services that do offer any kind of protection actually charge a fee just to stop other companies from continuing to buy and sell your information in the first place. At a certain point, it becomes fair to ask whether your data is really still yours at all anymore. The uncomfortable truth behind free services. Here is the uncomfortable reality sitting underneath this entire conversation. So many of the free apps, websites, and platforms we rely on every single day only manage to stay profitable specifically because they collect and sell user data in the background. Would you honestly be willing to pay a monthly subscription fee for things like social media apps or free navigation tools if it meant none of your personal data was being collected or sold at all? For some people, that trade-off would absolutely be worth it. For plenty of others, it simply would not be. That tension sits right at the center of why this industry continues to grow largely unchecked. The need for stronger regulation. If there is one clear takeaway from all of this, it is that stronger regulation around personal data is truly overdue. Certain privacy regulations introduced in recent years have been a meaningful step in the right direction, but even those rules tend to come with loopholes, and in some cases, penalties tied to these regulations end up functioning more as a revenue source for governments than as a genuine deterrent against companies mishandling personal data. Summary: every single click, purchase, like, and location you visit quietly feeds into a massive, largely invisible industry built entirely around collecting, packaging, and reselling personal information. What starts as scattered little data points, your habits, your health, your relationships, your beliefs, eventually gets transformed into detailed behavioral profiles, sold again and again across a sprawling network of brokers, marketers, insurers, banks, and sometimes even governments. There are genuine benefits buried inside this system: better medical research, smarter public safety tools, more personalized services. But there is also a very real risk sitting alongside those benefits: the possibility of this same information falling into the wrong hands entirely. Understanding exactly how your data gets collected, packaged, and sold is really the first step toward deciding how much of your own digital life you are actually comfortable giving away. Thank you so much for sticking with us through this entire deep dive. If you found real value in it, feel free to subscribe so you catch our next video. And if you have any thoughts on this one, drop them in the comments below. We do read through them. Until next time, take care and keep building.